Welcome to the Dreamifesting Masterclass, where I'm celebrating the launch of my new book, Dreamifesting, by bringing you into my living room, where I have in-depth conversations with a few of my friends, authors and experts on the subject of dreams and manifesting. In this series, you'll learn behind-the-scenes secrets to lucid dreaming, dream embodiment, dream incubation, and how to deepen and grow your intuitive and psychic gifts. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. Welcome to the show today. I'm so grateful to be with you. It's a dream. I'm just going to pinch myself. It's so good to be here. All right. So I have an incredible guest, and he was recommended to me by the amazing Cindy Dale. And how much do we all love Cindy Dale, you know? So let me tell you a little bit about this extraordinary man, Anthony J.W. Benson. Fancy. So he is a creative business strategist, soulful life coach, and catalyst for conscious transformation. He's the founder of Injoi, that's INJOI, which empowers healing artists, spiritual entrepreneurs, and visionary brands to bring their work into the world with clarity, impact, and heart, sparking a wave of inspiration and motivation. My God, he's a respected teacher in the transformational field and a creative business strategist, coach, producer, writer who specializes in working with consciously awake authors, etc. It just goes on so long. He helps people to manifest their dreams. But he's not just here to talk about business. He's lived the entire arc of it with nearly 4 decades in entertainment and holistic well-being. He is going to talk a little bit about not just the cool people he's worked with, like Cindy Dale, Greg Braden, Neil Donald Walsh, and many more, but he also has a story that is going to kind of rock your soul. So let's start there. Anthony J.W. Benson, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here on my
Hello.
Dreamifesting Masterclass.
Well, it is my honor, and I could just say thank you and good night after that amazing intro. So thank you.
Hello and goodbye. Let's just
Yeah, hello.
bada bing, bada boom.
Thank you and good night.
Bye-bye. All
Yeah.
right. So you've got this very, very impressive bio. And to be somebody who Cindy Dale thinks is hot stuff, you must be like, you're top notch, top shelf, as they would say. But you didn't start off that way. You had kind of a
No.
rough and rocky beginning. So let's talk about that because it's shocking. Most people that have the beginnings that you did don't necessarily end up doing as well as you are. So take us back.
I'll just give you, it's obviously there's a lot there, and you're absolutely right. I had a challenging young life, let's say.
Mhm.
Um, but I was born in England to a mom and dad. They divorced, so immediately disruption, moved over to the States with a new stepfather, lived in about 6 different places before second grade. And when we landed in Kansas City for my Wonder Bread years, there was a lot of violence kind of percolating in the family. And I was the recipient of both physical abuse, sexual abuse, and that family ended up blowing up as well. And here I was, all of a sudden, due to life circumstances, living on my own at a tender young age of like 14. I dropped out of school. I was working and I was jumping deep into drugs and alcohol. And at the time, I didn't realize why I was doing that. It was just a great escape and it was of the age and it was the thing to do. But it also, being high, allowed me to disconnect from all the pain, whether it was the trauma, memories of the physical stuff that I went through, the family blowing up, etc. It was a way to disconnect. It was a way to not be of this world, so to speak. Eventually, I found myself working in the music business. And I found after that band broke up that I was managing, I found myself in an apartment in a really bad part of Minneapolis. And I woke up one morning in a mattress and fumbling for a cigarette. I smoked cigarettes at the time, couldn't find one, but I would take all the butts and make a cigarette. And then I smoked a joint and I went into the bathroom, and it was a really crappy apartment. It was down where all the drug dealers and
Mm.
prostitutes were working. And I stood and looked in the mirror and I couldn't see myself. I just saw blackness. And it was at that point that I thought, I might need to end my life. I'm not happy. I have no money. I have no job. I have no connection to family. I have no friends. I'm strung out on drugs and alcohol. And what is the point? And at this point, I'm 18, 19 years old, which is a horrible place to be at such a tender age, but it was real. And at that time, I remembered that my best friend's mother said, if you ever need to talk, reach out. So I reached out to her. I don't know why. And her prerequisite to us talking was, you can't be using. And of course, being the addict that I was, I lied and said, of course not. Yeah, of course. So we would meet at a church once a week. And I remember the last time we met, I got out of my car and this plume of smoke came billowing out of my car. And she looked at me and says, are you using? And I didn't lie this time. And I said, yes. 15 minutes later, no joke, I was in a treatment center being evaluated for drug and alcohol addiction. They welcomed me with open arms, but they didn't have time for me. They didn't have a spot for me. So I took advantage of that and went to some other treatment centers thinking that somebody would say, no, you don't have a problem. Everybody said I did. And so I eventually went to that treatment center, which is Parkview Treatment Center in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And that was the beginning of a shift and change in my life. So I could deal with, and I'm glossing over things, but not only the family trauma and the abuse and the sexual abuse, but I also was in and out of the army. That's another story. And then I had a nervous breakdown and so on. And so that led me up to this place of despair and so despondent and having a lifeless view of the world and no dreams at this point because everything had come crashing down and I thought there was no hope for me. So in treatment, I decided to not really pay attention and playing backgammon and suntanning outside, not getting it. And I remember that best friend's mother, Marcia, who really did save my life, coming in one day and confronting me. And I took it like Jake LaMotta on the ropes and wouldn't crack. And they just said, good luck and go to AA. And I was thinking, I spent all this money for treatment and you're not fixing me? What do you mean you're not going to fix me? And I went outside, sat down by this pond, watched the swans swimming, had a moment, came back into the final group of the final day of treatment. And in that moment, our counselor, John, wanted to do what is called a family sculpture. And a family sculpture is where you reenact the emotions and situations of your life, but without any words. So I would grab people from the group. I had no family members, but I would grab some of the other patients and their family members and stage the situation. My mom up on a table acting like a puppeteer. And then I grabbed this guy by the name of Skoshi, who was a counselor in training, and had him be my father, whom I did not know and died before I got to meet him. And John saw something here and got rid of everybody and sat us down and proceeded to have me bury my father. And all of a sudden, in the process of burying my father, with Scotia here laying down and playing the role, I went completely out. Everything turned white. I couldn't hear, I couldn't see. And all of a sudden, I was enveloped by this light. I was enveloped by an energy. I can't explain it other than it was a higher power. And when I came out of that, I was being rocked on the floor, flood of tears, and everybody in the circle, probably 30, 40 people in that session, were bawling their eyes out and crying. And I had this spiritual awakening in front of a group of people. And from that point on, that was March 11th, 1980, when I went into treatment. And since that day, I have been sober. And that set the table, Kelly, for me to start my life anew. I didn't have to be a victim to all that had preceded me. I didn't have to be in trauma from the physical abuse. I didn't have to be in trauma for the sexual abuse. I didn't have to be in trauma from being abandoned by my family. I didn't have to be in trauma being lied to about who my father was, and so on and so on. But what I could do is reclaim my life. And now removing the drugs and alcohol allowed me a sense of clarity and an opportunity to grow into the human being that now I have eventually, many years later, become. So the evolution of self has been this amazing journey. And so to bring in the dream component, I couldn't dream of anything when I was a mess and in the trauma and keeping myself all messed up with drugs and alcohol. But getting that clarity allowed me to have vision, allowed me to see things the way they are and to see things the way they could be,
Mm,
which is where the
mm,
dream component comes into play, right? I mean, that's part of your
right.
work, is like understanding that, from my perspective, believing is really the precursor to achieving. So
Ooh,
once you are in that mindset of belief, then things can happen. And I also believe, when you dream, you transcend time. You allow
yeah.
yourself to kind of float into a space of anything is possible. Anything can happen. And I am of the belief, because I haven't been in school since I was 14 and I'm self-taught in everything that I do, is that immersing myself in the action, in the doing, is what reinforces the reality of something happening. And when
Mm.
you have that belief, that is the key to opening the door to possibilities.
Ooh. Oh, Anthony J.W. Benson, you are just rocking my soul and just making me cry. I feel like we need to take a commercial break while I fix my makeup. God bless you. But I it's one thing to have a spiritual awakening. It's another to apply it. There's a lot of people that have a spiritual moment and it's a beautiful postcard of a moment and it comes and it goes. And as soon as they can, they get right back to how it is, how their life was. And you didn't do that. So, on the other side of this break, I want to talk about how you stitched together this insight, this spiritual awakening. You had this catharsis, this beautiful, extraordinary moment, how you were able to then bring that into your life and how you use it now. So, we will be right back with Anthony J.W. Benson. Mark your calendar for September 16th, 2025, for the book launch of Dreamifesting. When you buy your copy of the Dreamifesting paperback or Kindle ebook, either in pre-order or on launch day, you get hundreds of dollars of free gifts to support you in Dreamifesting your very best life. Go to dreamifesting.com now to start dreamifesting your wildest dreams into reality. Hey, dreamy friend. Did you know that people with deep and meaningful friendships live longer and healthier lives? And did you also know that besides hosting the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show, I also co-host the Anatomy of Friendship podcast with the amazing holistic health counselor and author, Joey Sutton. Joey and I have been besties for over 25 years, and on our show, we share our friendship formula for how to make and keep deep and lasting friendships. Download our free ebook at anatomyoffriendship.com, and you can also check out the podcast on Spotify and Apple iTunes. Anatomy of Friendship, because it takes a team to make a dream come true. Okay, I'm back with Anthony J.W. Benson, and I feel like I got to go on that emotional ride with you. I mean, you are somebody who's living an extraordinary life that would be, I imagine, so inspiring to your little boy self that maybe couldn't have imagined this. And just to anybody's standards, this is quite a remarkable life, living, like getting to work with some of the luminaries that most people would stand in line for hours to just get a glimpse of. You get to hang out with these people all the time. You've made something of yourself. But back then, when you were on your last day of rehab, when you thought I came here, nobody fixed me, nothing's happening. This is so what it's like for so many people, even if their circumstances aren't quite as extreme, where they're in their darkest moment, nobody's helping, nobody's fixing it. There's nothing, nobody that's going to fix it. So might as well just do the Hail Mary. Well, what's in front of me to do? I guess I'll just do that. And sometimes in that final Hail Mary moment is where the miracle happens. But then how do you stitch it into your life? So how did you do that? You come out of this catharsis, this white light. Then what?
Part of it is realizing that I had more to offer than, and I was selling myself short prior to that. And also, I was all in my trauma, right? All the stuff that I dealt with. And when you allow yourself to break free, pardon me,
Mhm.
and give yourself permission to really, it was like, it was time to get off my potential. It was time to make a difference in my life. And, and I realized that it's never too late to really mine the depths of one's soul. And I needed to go to that place and realize, okay, I'm creative. That was one thing I knew about myself. And I also knew that I wanted to express that. And so I had to take risks. And in doing that, you have to put yourself out there in a way that allows yourself to be seen. And of course, when you're an addict, that's the last thing you want to be, is vulnerable. You don't want to be seen, right? So people think that often that risk is foolhardy, and I disagree. I think it can be appropriate if it's deliberate, if it's focused, if it's passionate, and risk can release us from the shackles of fear and deliver us to our true selves. And so that's an integral part of creating a life that any of us might want. And it certainly was, more importantly, for a life that I wanted and thought I deserved. And that was the part of the growth in my recovery and really understanding who I was and who I could become, is that I deserve to be happy. I
Mm,
deserve to
mm,
be successful. I deserve to be creative. I deserve to be seen, to be heard, to express, and so on. Right. So because I have had a creativity piece, and I was just working to keep them. Mind you, I'm really young at this time. I mean, I
mhm.
am. I'm sober at 20. So
Wow.
I burned hard and fast at a very young age. And so here I am at 20, and I had injured myself at a restaurant and found myself in the hospital for a month in traction. Getting out of
Mm,
getting out of that, I realized
mm.
that I needed to kind of take stock of my life. And I went down and saw this band in Iowa. And unbeknownst to them, because I love them, I pitched them to somebody I knew in the Twin Cities. They were so impressed with me, they hired me as a booking agent. The band was so impressed by me, they hired me as their manager. And here I
Wow.
was off and running into the world of music. And so I was really entrenched in the music business for a large part of my life, in management, in promotion, in booking, etc. And that was a catalyst to expression, because you have to, back then, this was a long time ago, doing the ads, doing the promotion, coming up with the ways to market and all that. And so that exposed me to publicity, to promotion, to advertising, to
Mm.
marketing. So that was my entree into that world. And then I started to flex a little bit. It's like, okay, I'm kind of digging this. I'm really enjoying this expression. Um, the band broke up, other things happened. And what I found is that as I moved further into the music business, I had different ways of expressing myself. And also, it was the beginning of understanding, outside of the realm of recovery and in that sense of being of service, my
Mhm.
work was being of service.
Ooh,
And
nice.
that, to this day, is what I do. I am here to serve my clients. I am here to be a catalyst for opportunity. I am here to advise, guide, execute on their behest, on their behalf, etc. And so the creative realm that I was moving into, and in this case it was the music business, also expanded me into other creative realms of writing, of communicating, of talking, of creating product and working with different people. And because of my own growth, that evolution of self that I spoke to, it got me into the world of publishing, and I
Mm.
became a publicist eventually, I mean, I'm jumping around here, so pardon me for that, because I don't
I'm
have,
with you.
we don't have
I'm
all the
on the
time.
ride with you. I'll go anywhere
So,
you say.
so while I'm at Llewellyn, which is where I was a publicist, and that's where I
Oh,
met
yeah.
Cindy
Cindy.
Dale.
Yeah.
So Cindy had her very first book, New Shock for Healing. We became friends. I was her publicist, and
Wow. Oh, wow.
off we went. So our friendship started in that in that in that little window for a while. We ended up teaching together and doing classes. I mean, this is back in the day where you did flyers, you'd rent a space in a hotel, you'd hope
Mhm.
people would show up. And I mean, that's how we kind of did things. And eventually her path with children and her life and my moving around and relationships and doing things, our paths diverged. And we literally, even I was working with other people in the spiritual realm, some of whom you mentioned, and others. We literally bumped into one another in a hallway at a new age trade show in Denver, Colorado.
Mm.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, would you manage me? And so we've been together about 30 years, working
Wow.
together, starting from that one book to where Cindy has over 40 books. We've taught in China, she's taught in Russia, and been to South America. We've done courses, we've done classes, and so on. And so that was a catalyst to allowing a different way of expressing and me to be of service. My role with Cindy is really all that I mentioned: divide, guide, and execute. I'm her friend. I'm her manager, I'm her business partner, and we
Wow.
work on building and expanding and exploring the opportunities for her as a luminary, as an amazing teacher, as a fantastic author, etc. And we figure out ways to serve her audience and
Mm.
expand to growing the audience. But that is also what I do for other people.
Mhm.
Whether it's Dr. Lisa Collins, who I'm excited that I'm working with right now, whose whole work is about trauma and racial
Mm.
healing.
Mm.
I've been blessed to be allowed to be of service to many people, many of whom are very well known, and some who are not well known yet. Their needs are the same. It's
Yeah.
just that where they are in their personal growth and in their evolution on a professional level is different. So I'm there to help them. Backing up on that, of how that
Yeah.
all works within my realm of the work that I do, is I have to feel a spiritual
Mm.
connection to people. There has to be a through line of where I think I can bring something to the party and make a difference. I
Mhm.
say no
Mhm.
more than I say yes. And
Mhm.
the reason is I don't need 37, different clients. I need
Right.
the people that I can make a difference and really jump in, roll my sleeves up, and get to work and do that.
Right.
I have team of people. We serve at whatever level that we can best serve. But to your question about how that evolution happened, it allowed me to trust my intuition and realizing from the life that I'd come from that actually the grass is sometimes greener on the other side, right? But you have to be willing to step over there. And so
Right.
that
Ooh.
vision that I was able to allow myself is the ability to view anew, and it's a willingness to see beyond a preconception of
Mm.
perception, right? So we have a preconception of things, but it's not necessarily what it is. You don't know
Mhm.
until you step in,
Right.
right? And I tell people this all the time. I really believe this is that, you're so much more than your title or your business card, that you're you are talented beyond measure. You're a multi-dimensional being. You are capable of amazing accomplishments and magic, right? Yet to be wielded. You haven't completely expressed it yet. So I want to encourage people to ignore those distractions, set your intentions, dream,
Mm.
own your power, because
Yeah.
it's time to get on with it. So I'm
Yeah.
sometimes a cheerleader, sometimes I'm a coach, sometimes I'm a consigliere, sometimes I'm a mother confessor, sometimes I'm a therapist.
A
It doesn't
Cyrano.
matter. Right, right, right. So it doesn't matter as long as I'm being of service. So part of my growth in recovery of being of service to others who are in need is also bringing that mentality and skill set to the world in which I work, which is with soulful people, authors, entertainers, etc. part of what I experienced when I lived in LA for a while, and I was steeped in the music and then the entertainment world. And I've worked with some of the biggest comics and musicians in the world, and that's great. But I left LA because I didn't want to wake up there any longer. I didn't want to be
Mm.
bombarded by the everybody is something that they're not, and they're trying to be, rather, they're trying to be something that they're not. And it's
Yeah.
always this and never
Yeah.
quite getting it. And that's where I had to center myself and recalibrate my dreams
Mm.
about what was best for me. I dream all the time, Kelly. It's
Mm.
a process that I've learned to do where I end up writing
Mm.
letters,
Wow.
articles, chapters in my head
Ooh.
prior to actually doing the work. I
Mhm.
also daydream. I allow myself to kind of, blank out. It's a
Yeah.
form of meditation. I'm sure you're very familiar with that with your own work, right? It's you have to allow yourself the space to go
Yes.
there. And so for me, my life has been about overcoming adversity, trusting trusting the process
Yeah.
and realizing that all that, and at least this is my opinion, some people
Mhm.
differ with this, that you're never given more than you can handle, because the dark nights of the soul, of which I've had many, if I stand back now, because I have survived all those dark nights of the soul, being near death, horrific circumstances, I mean, just
Mhm.
many,
Mhm.
I've survived all those. So by virtue of sitting here with you today, I have not been given more than I can handle. I may
Ooh.
have felt that in the moment,
Right.
but now on the other side of it, I realize I am strong. I am
Mm.
powerful. I am, I'm resourceful. I'm capable of making things happen. But
Mm.
part of that is, is being still, because you can search far and wide. It's stillness is where you'll find yourself,
Mhm.
and that for me often is in the dream realm.
Wow. So I wanna reiterate a few things that I heard you say
Yeah.
just to highlight them. And I think these are some of the universal principles that I think are true for everybody. It's hard to dream, to have a connection with the dream maker, with that bigger spirit when we're so full of pain and resentment and hurt. And I think I mention all the time that Leonardo da Vinci quote about how did he create the sculpture of David? He didn't create him, he freed him from the excess marble
Mm.
that encased him. So we're all works of art, we're all masterpieces underneath the marble. We have to lose our marbles. We have to break down. We need to cry. We need to sometimes be held by people, be contained because sometimes it's hard to release like that unless you've got some kind of a structure, some people around you. But whatever it is, surrender to grace. And you did that. You let go. And then what you did was you started to follow. You had, I imagine there was some bandwidth available where there hadn't been before. So you started to follow your creative inspiration, and music was your inspiration. And you followed that and took it far, and you became this music manager, promoter, and with the notion, and this is one thing I love about 12 steps. I will always praise the 12-step programs, all of them, of which I've been in and around many of them. Um, the service notion, what a concept. There's more people on the planet than just us. What?
Right.
There's other people that might need a loving hand, a hand up, a whatever that is, to open our hearts and think, "How can I serve?" That's when grace steps in. So I think if we want the quick way to get to grace, it's like open our hearts. So what were you about to say?
Well, you've keyed on a couple of amazing things, and I concur. Is that I had to give myself grace. I
Yeah.
had to forgive myself, um, and there was a lot to forgive, and I had to forgive others as well. I mean, that was a big step for me. But the through line to my life is self love. It's getting to a place where I was
Yeah.
allowing myself to
Yes.
love myself, and then
Yeah.
the choices that I was allowing myself to make were born of self love,
Mhm.
allowing myself to
Mm.
do things, to take risks, to explore, and to flex my creative muscles, and to be seen and heard in the process, and to
Mhm.
realize, okay, one of my superpowers, Cindy actually used this word on me once, and then I realized, oh, that's it. Is that one of my superpowers is that I can grok things very quickly. You know, grokking is that ability to see
Ooh,
things 360
you're
and
a
really
grok
assimilate them.
star.
I'm a grok star. And that is one, I love that. And it's one of my superpowers. And so, how do I use that? I'm able to take information, distill it, and figure things out and make things happen very quickly. And that's great because that helps my clients, but it also helps me because then I can make decisions that serve the highest good of what it is I want to accomplish. And when I step back, I mean, I marvel, not with ego, but because of where I came,
Mm,
what I've accomplished. I've produced albums. I have produced commercials. I've been in commercials. I have been on stage. I have spoken here. I have taught here. I have I helped create the first line of CDs for National Geographic. I mean, there's just this list of things. Again, this
yeah,
isn't about ego and doing this. It's more about how did I accomplish all this?
right.
How did I allow myself or create the scenarios that provided the opportunity to do these things and to taste life in a myriad of ways that really color who I am and
Yeah,
inform how I walk this world? Well, that's giving myself the grace of where I
yeah,
came from and realizing, okay, yeah, I would love to do talks and I would love to, contribute to books and eventually write. And I want to do this and I want to do that, right? And so why not? I
why not?
mean, why not? And so that's the piece of giving yourself permission to do whatever your heart is singing for, right?
Mm,
And one of the things I
interesting.
learned in
Mm.
overcoming adversity is that perseverance is adversity's worst nightmare. So I am all
Ooh,
about
ooh,
persevering. And
ooh,
so
that was good.
my persevering is what has allowed me to do all these things because I don't take no for an answer because I believe there's enough room for everybody to shine.
Mm,
I don't get scared. I don't get into a competitive mindset. I don't believe in that. And also, Cindy and I talk about this all the time is, Cindy's not an overnight sensation. She's worked her ass off for 40 books and teaching and doing all this. And we talk about how we work. It's a work ethic.
that's
So
true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the other piece that I have learned is complacency is the soul
Mm.
sucking quicksand of self-actualization. So if
Ooh,
you are complacent and don't show up, and that's really, you put in half-ass efforts, you're going to get half-ass results. And so
mhm,
I work, I show up, I do the work, both personally,
mm,
my own
mm,
evolution and growth and spiritual needs and health needs and wellness needs and all that.
right.
But I also do the same in my professional
Mm.
world, is I do the work.
I have a question. How
Yeah.
did Marcia know did Marcia ever get to see how you turned out?
Yeah, she's older now, and yes, I wrote about her in my story that I contributed to a book. And yeah, she saved my life. I mean, Marcia, and the funny thing is her son was my best friend. And we went into the army at the same time, different places. I lived in a car for a while. They took me into their home. The love that she and her family offered me was monumental in my life. And she was the one that confronted my mother. She's the one that dragged my butt to the treatment center. She's the one that showed up for family day. She was everything. And, I owe so much to her in terms of my life and being, standing on 2 feet above ground now. Sadly, her son, who was my best friend, I had to remove myself because he continued to use, and then
I'm
he
so sorry.
eventually died of a brain tumor. And so we've
Oh,
stayed in touch. Um, I don't talk to her as much as I would like, but she's in my heart. I bring her up all the time because of what a monumental force she was.
yeah,
She fought for me. She saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself, and she felt I had a life worth saving.
it's so beautiful. And this is,
Yeah.
this kind of Marcia sort of throws a wrench in a few things, or and actually illuminates some things because I know a lot of people that are drawn to that are in my world are want to help other people. And sometimes we go overboard. And Mel Robbins' new book, Let Them, it's kind of like a what? let them. I mean, it's so a lot of the people I know are trying to like give people space to fall themselves and to not put pillows under everybody's butts. But every once in a while, when we get called and we see somebody, we might say, "Nope, I'm not gonna let him fall. No, I'm gonna go the extra mile." So that's where Marsha's thrown a little bit of a wrench because sometimes we do make a difference in somebody's life. We do make the difference between life and death, and sometimes it's not at home. Sometimes it's
Right.
not with that one person that we really wanted it to make a difference toward. But what if this was the soul contract? She had a son
Right.
that couldn't get it together,
Right.
but what if the contract was that he was supposed to be this way so that it would tenderize her heart so much that she could help somebody like you? Who knows? I just, as a dream person, I like to make up stories to try to
No, I
finish the
think you're
plot
right on
line.
target. No, I love that. And what you're speaking to is there's often a very fine line between care and codependency,
Yeah, it's
right?
very yeah.
Yeah. And so she was hard on me. It wasn't
She had
codependency.
boundaries.
She had boundaries and she knew how to
Right.
use them. And she cared for me. And she helped create the opportunity for me to make choices for myself. At the end of the day, we always have a choice in anything that we do, anywhere that we are, whatever we're doing. We have to deal with the consequences of those choices. And I
Right.
have, as part of my evolution, have gotten out of the right and wrong, good, bad kind of scenario, though that has merit, of course. But I look at choices beget choices, beget choices, beget choices, right? And so
Yeah.
any choice we make, we learn from, which informs how we might make the next choice. And that
Mhm.
is partly in my own recovery. I mean, this year, just last month, 45 years sober.
Wow.
Who would have thought? I mean,
Congratulations.
being that I'm 29, I don't know how that happened,
Is that po
but it's crazy.
That's just a physics
Yeah,
anomaly.
it
Yeah.
doesn't work. The
No.
math isn't mathing for me. But it's hard to believe from where I was that I'm now what they call an old timer, egads. And so
Oh, wow.
I am definitely in rarefied air, but it's not born of willpower. It's a conscious choice to love myself on a daily basis, to show up for myself. I mean, I make other choices. I haven't had a cup of coffee in almost
What?
that long. I haven't smoked cigarettes
Whoa.
since 35 plus maybe 40 years. I've been vegan most of my life, plant-based. Um, so the reason that I am of health, mind, body, and spirit is that I step into the reality of what I want. So the
It
dream of
works.
I want to
Yeah.
live to be an old, healthy age is that I
Yeah.
have to show up for myself in all those areas. I can't
Yeah.
just wish it. I
Yeah.
have to do it. I have to be it. I have to believe it. I have to own it. I have to live it. And so everything that I have been able to do in my life, I have lived it because I didn't have any
Mm.
guidance. I didn't have a father teaching me. I wasn't in school. I didn't go to college. I didn't finish high school. I dropped out of the army, all these things. So mine was all about jumping in and trusting myself to figure it out and then to do it and give myself permission, which is what I encourage everybody to do. We're so
Yeah.
fearful, so many of us, that I can't dare to dream.
Right.
I can't possibly do that. I can't write a book. I can't be a painter. I can't travel. I can't. Well, yeah, you can. What's stopping you? Well, what's stopping you is your own self-belief that you don't deserve and that you're incapable and that
Right.
some old tape that somebody told you you're not worthy and you don't deserve. And I call BS on that.
I call BS on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to just punctuate a couple things you said as we're wrapping up here, that perseverance is adversity's worst nightmare.
Yes.
Perseverance is adversity's worst nightmare, and complacency is the soul-sucking I don't know,
Quicksand
quicksand
of
of
self-actualization.
self-actualization. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is some good, those are some quotables right there, Mr. Anthony J.W. Benson. Well,
Thank you.
I am so grateful that we've had this moment together, and I Hope that we have many more moments
I
together.
hope
Thank
so
you,
too.
Cindy Dale, for connecting us.
Thank you,
And your
Cindy.
website is injoi.com,
Nope,
INJOI.
it's actually Anthony J. That's all right. It's Anthony
Okay,
J.W. Benson.com is my personal. And then
that's easy.
I've got Injoi Creative. So it's INJOI creative.com. And
That's
I help
great.
people with branding. My needs, for clients were such that, oh, we need branding, we need ideation, logos and websites. So I created a business for that as well. But Anthony J.W. Benson, you'll find me on social media. That's my website. Come and say
Wonderful.
hello, look
That's
around,
wonderful. Last
join my
words.
website.
Yes, last words from you as we wrap up today's show.
Well, one, thank you for having me as a guest. I love the work that you're doing. I think dreams are an essential part of our personal growth as humans, right? I mean, it's just giving
So good.
ourselves permission to do that is
Yeah.
important. But I think it's also that we all have superpowers, right? We all have magical, as I call them, magical gifts. And I encourage everybody to use them for good, for self and for others, because we need that light in the world.
Yeah.
And I want everybody to own their light, to carry the light, to shine the light, and get out of the fear-based mindset and empower yourself to wield your superpowers because the world needs it now more than ever, I might say.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Right. Right.
and don't worry about failure because it's not a death knell, really. It's, failure is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to evolve and to elevate yourself. So I wish that for everybody.
Amen. Thank you so much for touching my heart today and
Oh,
lifting
my
up my
pleasure, Kelly.
spirits and helping me to dream a bit bolder and a bit wilder. Thank you so much. Sweet
Thank you.
dreams until we meet again. You've been listening to the Dreamifesting Masterclass, hosted by me, author of Dreamifesting, Kelly Sullivan Walden. I hope you learned something today that will take the life of your dreams to the next level. Speaking of next level, if you haven't already picked up a copy of Dreamifesting, head on over to your favorite brick and mortar or online retailer to buy your copy today. Oh yes, and once you buy it, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, comment, and share about it with your friends. I hope you'll join me for the next Dreamifesting Live. You can find out more about that at dreamifestinglive.com. That's Dreamifesting with an I in the middle, Dreamifesting-live.com. Until we meet again, may you harness the power of your dreams to create the life you desire. Dream on.